social media can be very satisfying in many ways. It's a useful tool for certain things, you know. And I think that Big Eva in general just doesn't really understand what social media is for and how it's so useful. But I don't know, man. I laugh all the time on social media, and this is a perfect example. So earlier this morning, Mike Cosper. He blocked me for a while, and here he is. He unblocked me. I don't really know why. Maybe it was a mistake, but he unblocked me, and so I'm obviously going to try to get blocked again. So Mike Cosper, we're going to talk about this for real, but first we're going to do a little joking. Mike Cosper said, "It's really remarkable how quickly some play into the problematic stereotypes of men critiquing women in politics. The comments about Harris's voice, tone, and likability show total disregard for her, worthy of critique and engagement, policies, and agendas." So he's upset that we're talking about her tone and her likability and her voice and her just kind of the air about her. Instead of talking about her policies, he's very upset about that. And it's funny because there's an actual reason why this is the case. We're going to explain that in a minute. But I responded, she should go home. Let the reader understand. Now, this tweet is working on two levels, my friend. Two levels. I think most people get the first level where I'm talking about Kamala Harris going home. But I don't think too many people caught the second level, so maybe I need to telegraph my pass a little better. If you do get the second level that this tweet works on, let me know in the comment section below, because I thought this was a perfect tweet, at least in my opinion. But anyway, the joking part. So we've got Jason Mariana here. Jason Mariana, he's a character. He's a real character. He's always the type that when you say Christians should act like men, he's always the kind that's like, well, what is a man really? Like one of those types. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, he thought he had me. He sensed his opportunity. Jason thought he had me. And this is where I love social media, when people just face plant because they assume things about you that are clearly untrue. It's so funny. So he thought he had me in an inconsistency. He said, well, if you're telling Kamala Harris to go home because she's the woman, Amy Coney Barrett, on the other hand, because he thinks I'm like him. He thinks that I've got my certain team and I have a different set of rules for my team, but then the other team, I have a different set of rules. He thinks I'm a little weasel like him, but I'm not, Jason. I'm not. You should have checked your facts before you went to do this dunk, because what ended up happening here is you face planted. You tried to dunk, but you failed. And we're going to show a little dunking compilation at the end of this of failed dunks that people try. Because here's the reality, Jason. I'm not like you, man. I'm not like you. I'm not a little weasel. I said the same thing about Amy Coney Barrett when Trump nominated her. Actually, even before he nominated her, I said I wouldn't nominate her because she should probably go home and spend time with her kids and raise her kids instead of being a judge. In fact, the scripture clearly shows us that the plan for leadership, for a government, for warriors, for judges it's for men. It's for men, and that's something the Bible clearly indicates. That does not mean that every woman is terrible at it, but most women are terrible at it. And the reality is that the exceptions that the Bible tells us and the exceptions that we see in our life, like that lady in South Dakota, she seems like a pretty good governor. But the exceptions actually prove the rule because there's so few of them that they actually end up proving the rule. So yeah, you can't find me in an inconsistency like this, Jason. I wouldn't have nominated Amy Coney Barrett. I think that there are probably much worse choices, and there were many men that would be worse choices as well, but I wouldn't have done it because God's plan, God's design, the way he created the world is that men should be judges, men should be leaders, and that's that. There are exceptions, but that's the plan. And so sorry, Jason. Nice try, but it's a failure. I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but you're not going to catch me in an inconsistency like this. But let's go back to Mike Cosper's tweet, because there's actually a real reason why this is the case. Why are people talking about Kamala Harris's voice, tone, her likability, like the whole air of her presentation? Do you know why they're doing this? Because This also likewise proves what God's design is. You see, for Kamala Harris to come across as a strong leader the way Pence came across, she actually has to be a man. So what she's doing is she's playing the man. Kamala Harris plays the man. And so what ends up happening is she overdoes it. It's like when transgenders, like a male to female transgender, what do? They typically get humongous breasts. They typically wear tremendous amounts of makeup. They over exaggerate because they're not a woman. And so in order to pretend like a woman, they just overdo it. And that's what happens with female leaders. Female leaders tend to be horrible because what do? They're overdoing it. They're trying to pretend to be a man and act like a man. And so when they do that, they overdo it. That's why female leaders tend to be more violent. They tend to be more aggressive in wars. Hillary Clinton would have gotten us into more wars because she was pretending to be a man, doing the things that men do, and so she's going to overreact. And so why does Kamala Harris's why is her track record just a disaster with justice, prosecuting media people, just putting people in jail for ridiculous amounts of time? Why is all of her justice track record over exaggerated? Why is she aggressive, overly aggressive in her previous roles in government? Because she's pretending to be a man, and so she overdoes it. Female leaders tend to be horrible. They tend to be horrible because they can't check their pretend land. They can't check it. They have to be overly aggressive. They have to have a more aggressive tone or a more, and they end up being less likable. When a woman acts like a man, they're less likable because as a woman, we know what they're supposed to be like, and then when they're acting like one of our buddies in the frat house, then we understand, like, that's not likable. People don't like that. Men don't like that, and women don't like that. Likewise, when a man's acting like a woman or is an effeminate, men don't like that and women don't like that because it's unnatural. You're overdoing it. And so Mike Cosper is lamenting here the stereotypes. But the thing is, Mike Cosper rejects the reason why it's happening because I'm sure Mike Cosper, he should go home too. He doesn't understand that the differences, that how God made people and how God made men differently than men and how than women, and how God made men to lead, and not only in the house of God, but also in the public sphere. Like, women shouldn't be going to war, shouldn't be leading armies. Women shouldn't be leading states or governments or things like that. That's not God's design. And when they do, sometimes they're okay, like that lady in South Dakota. Sometimes they're good. But the exceptions prove the rule. Typically, they're horrendous. Typically, they're like that Beetlejuice-looking lady from Chicago. They're just tyrants, little tyrants, and they're actually more tyrannical than their male counterparts because they're faking it. They're trying to fake it. They're faking it till they make it. And this is the thing, Mike Cosper. You instead of discovering God's design and really and promoting it and preaching it without apology, instead, you're taking these intersectionals. Oh, it's a stereotype. It's not a stereotype. It's how God made people. And so when people try to fake it to the other gender, yeah, it's unnatural and it's worth talking about. And I don't care to talk about her policies because they're obviously horrible. On the face of it, they're horrible, Mike Cosper. So what else are we going to talk about? I mean, listen, I'm not as soy-laden as some of you guys, but what else is there to talk about? I mean, that's just it. But anyway, that's pretty much it. And again, Jason, I would suggest checking your facts next time, buddy, before you do this kind of thing. Listen, I've face-planted on social media before. I've done it before, definitely. So I know where you're coming from, buddy. It hurts. It's gonna hurt a little bit. But I don't know, man. I follow you and I look at your tweets and stuff, and I don't know. You do this a lot. You might want to take another break, because I know you've taken a break before for face planting on social media. I would consider maybe deleting your account for a while. It's obviously not going that well for you. So anyway, enjoy this compilation of dunk fails. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.